Welcome back to DartBrain, the only podcast where your brain is the real opponent, your gremlins hold grudges, and your guardians sometimes forget to show up until you've already gone full tilt. Hey there, Dart nerds, pub league philosophers, tungsten tacticians. Welcome back to DartBrain, the only podcast where it's perfectly acceptable to have a full-blown existential crisis because one of your gremlins whispered something mean and now your confidence is hiding behind the bar. I'm your host, Clint Clarkson, part-time darts philosopher, full-time overthinker, and today's episode is a big one, because this, right here, right now, is the moment you've all been waiting for. The big reveal. All the mental game stuff we've been talking about, the posture, the power poses, the routines, the professor brain, the chimp brain, the quiet eye focus, the inner voice that sometimes sounds like a sports psychologist and sometimes sounds like a drunk raccoon. All of it fits inside one simple, powerful, and sometimes slightly ridiculous model, the DartBrain. That's right, DartBrain isn't just the title of this podcast, it's the name of the entire model we're building, a model designed specifically to help you understand what's going on inside your head when you step to the hockey. It breaks down the chaos of competitive darts into something you can actually work with, something you can understand, something you can improve. Now, if you're like most players, you've probably heard the phrase mental game tossed around like confetti at a county fair. And sure, it's true. Darts is a mental game. But what does that even mean? Does it mean focus, confidence, nerves, imagery, routines, staying relaxed, getting pumped up, not getting pumped up, not letting your chimp out of his cage because your opponent answered your 26 with a 140 and you're already down a break? Yes, all of that. And also, none of that. Because here's the truth. Mental game is a lazy catch-all that lumps every psychological factor into one confusing blob. It's like saying your computer crashed because of technology stuff. Okay, but was it a software glitch, an overheated CPU, or did your Wi-Fi just emotionally check out? Without specifics, you're just guessing, and good luck fixing something you haven't even defined. This is where the DartBrain model comes in. The first big win of the DartBrain model is this. It breaks your mental game into discrete parts, specific components, manageable mental skills, not just one big mess of fix your head. Think of it like this. If your darts game was a pub meal, your technical mechanics would be the meat and potatoes. But your mental game? That's the sauce, the seasoning, the side dish, the timing of when it hits the table, how hot it is, the wine pairing. Mental performance isn't just one thing, it's a whole ecosystem, and each part deserves attention. The DartBrain model lets you zoom in on one specific area at a time. Confidence, focus, emotional regulation, commitment, enjoyment. That way, you're not trying to master every mental skill at once. You're working one puzzle piece at a time. The second benefit? Clarity, understanding, naming the chaos. When things go wrong in a match, most players say something like, I just lost my head or my game fell apart. But that kind of vague self-assessment doesn't help you get any better. It just leaves you stewing in mystery and self-blame. It's like diagnosing a car problem by saying it made a weird noise and then just died. Okay, but was it the engine, the battery, a raccoon in the glove box? Vague assessments might make you feel cathartic in the moment, but they don't lead to solutions. You can't improve what you can't understand, and you can't understand what you haven't bothered to define. That's why the DartBrain model exists, to give you a precise language for the chaos inside your skull. The DartBrain model gives you names for the forces at play. Names like gremlins, the sneaky sabotaging forces that pull your focus apart, and guardians, the internal allies that stabilize your mind and let you perform at your best. When you know whether your struggle came from self-doubt, fatigue, or emotional overload, you can start to understand it. And when you understand it, you can beat it. Call it what you want, psychology, metacognition, or just plain common sense. But one thing's for sure, if you can name it, you can tame it. The third benefit is that the DartBrain model helps you identify your personal strengths and weaknesses, not just as a darts player, but as a psychological athlete. This isn't just about what's going wrong, it's about what's going right. Maybe you've got excellent focus, but struggle with confidence. Maybe your emotional regulation is elite, but your imagery is a mess. Maybe your resilience is hell, but forget to breathe after a bounce out. By breaking things down, you can start to leverage your strengths, build your game around them, and you can also shore up your weak spots, or at the very least, be ready when they show up. It's like knowing you're rock solid in early legs, but tend to wobble under pressure in a decider. Once you see the pattern, you can prepare for it, not with wishful thinking, but with actual tools and strategies. Awareness turns panic into a plan. Confidence comes from knowledge. The more you know about how your mind operates, the more you can trust it. And trust, my friend, is the fuel of performance. And finally, and this might be the most important benefit, the DartBrain model gives you direction. Let's be honest, working on your mental game can feel like trying to train an invisible dog. You're not sure what to do, how to do it, or even if it's working. But when you understand the components of the DartBrain, you can start to build a mental training plan that's tailored to you. You don't have to train everything, you just have to train the right things for you. Ask yourself, what matters most for my success? What's getting in my way? What kind of routines or practices suit my personality? Where can I experiment? Where do I need structure? What do I need more of? And what do I need to let be? Mental training becomes iterative. Plan, do, check, adjust. Like any good coach, you try something, you observe the results, and you tweak. You build your own feedback loop. You stop treating your brain like a mystery and start treating it like a project. Not a perfect, polished project, more like a home renovation where half the walls are still drywall and there's a gremlin living in the attic. But it's yours, and when you start working with your mindset, instead of just yelling at it, progress becomes possible. It's not just about instant transformation, it's about consistent tuning. One adjustment at a time, you build a mental game that actually fits you. So that's why this episode is different. This isn't just a tip, trick, or concept. This is the big picture, the framework, the toolbox, the mental map. The DartBrain model is your lens, a way to understand and train your psychology with as much intention as you train your throw. And in the next segment, we're going to break it all down. We'll walk through the shape of the model, how focus works, and how gremlins and guardians fight for control of your brain and your game. You've got the right tools, you've got the capacity, and starting today, you've got a model. Let's build your DartBrain. You've just heard why the DartBrain model matters. Clarity, direction, confidence, and the power to actually train your mental game, not just complain about it. So now it's time to lay it all out. What is the DartBrain? What is it shaped like? What lives inside it? And more importantly, why does it occasionally feel like a psychological haunted house? Let's start with a simple experiment. If you stand up right now, take your stance, and imagine throwing a dart across the room. It'll be perfect. No snatch, no hitch, no chimp swinging from your neurons yelling, "Don't screw this up." Just a clean, silky smooth throw every single time. But the moment you put an actual dart in your hand and aim to hit something, everything changes. Suddenly, that buttery smooth throw turns into chunky salsa, unpredictable, lumpy, and somehow all over the place. So what gives? The answer lies in your DartBrain, the invisible battlefield between your technical skill and your mental state. And here's the twist. Your DartBrain isn't just reacting to pressure, it's shaping your performance. Every dart you throw is filtered through it. Every moment of confidence, every flinch of doubt, every voice in your head, they're all coming from your DartBrain. So let's talk about structure. Imagine a cross-section of your brain. At the center of your DartBrain is focus. Focus is the core, the nucleus, the big glowing orb that everything orbits around. It's what determines whether you're locked in on the target or realizing too late that you've been holding your breath since your opponent hit that 140. And here's a key insight. Focus is dynamic. It doesn't stay still. It doesn't stay one size. Sometimes it's strong and sometimes it's weak. It expands and contracts based on what's happening in your mind and your body. When your focus fully expands, it takes over your whole DartBrain. You become absorbed in the task. Everything clicks. Your movements feel automatic. Time slows down. You're not thinking about your form, your score, or what Shane just whispered behind you. You're just in it. Congratulations. You've entered the zone. But, like all good things, the zone has an opposite, where your mind fragments, doubts creep in, your attention ricochets between 17 different stories, and none of them are helpful. You're tense, second-guessing, and probably muttering things to yourself that shouldn't be recorded. Welcome to being on tilt. So what's causing your focus to expand or collapse? That's where we meet the two main characters of your DartBrain. Gremlins, led by your chimp, and guardians, led by your professor. These are the opposing forces constantly battling for control of your focus. Gremlins are the negative mental influences that pull your focus apart. They're the culprits behind distraction, self-doubt, overthinking, fear, tension, the whole rogues gallery of inner sabotage. When your gremlins win the battle for your focus, you go on tilt. Guardians are the positive forces. They're your internal allies, the things that hold your focus together. Think confidence, enjoyment, energy, mental control, and optimism. When your guardians win the battle for your focus, you enter the zone. Every moment you're at the board, these forces are pushing and pulling on your focus, and the balance between them determines whether you're in the zone, spiraling to on tilt, or somewhere in between. Let's briefly introduce the gremlin and guardian pairings. Each gremlin, each of those little buggers trying to take your focus away, has a direct rival, a guardian that pushes in the opposite direction. I'm going to read all 10 of the pairings now. You probably won't remember all of these, so I'll post a graphic on the DartBrain Facebook page. Gremlin, neglect. Guardian, commitment. Gremlin, adversity. Guardian, resilience. Gremlin, distractions. Guardian, distraction controls. Gremlin, stress. Guardian, enjoyment. Gremlin, fatigue. Guardian, energy. Gremlin, emotions. Guardian, emotional regulation. Gremlin, pessimism. Guardian, optimism. Gremlin, negative imagery. Guardian, positive imagery. Gremlin, negative self-talk. Guardian, positive self-talk. Gremlin, self-doubt. And Guardian, confidence. Whether you realize it or not, you're in this battle every time you play. Some gremlins only show up in certain situations, stress during high-stakes matches, or distractions when you're struggling. Some guardians are naturally strong for you. Maybe your resilience is rock solid, but your energy guardian taps out after 2 legs in a logger. Your goal is to build your guardians so they can overpower your gremlins, not just once, but consistently, especially when it counts. Let's briefly talk about gremlins, the original chaos goblins. Gremlins are sneaky. They often work in pairs and they love to team up. For example, fatigue and emotions are basically best mates. Tired players are more emotional. Emotional players get tired faster. And once they start feeding each other, you might as well just give your chimps the keys to the bus. Another dangerous combo? Neglect and self-doubt. If you're skipping mental or technical training, your guardians start to wither. And when they weaken, self-doubt waltzes in like it owns the place. Self-doubt is the most dangerous gremlin because it doesn't just mess with one part of your mind, it attacks everything. It saps your confidence, stirs up your emotions, drains your energy. It's the ringleader of your inner sabotage. Now for the good news. You already have guardians. You're using them right now. Some are stronger than others, some are asleep on the job, some just need a little bit of training and encouragement. The strongest guardian of all? That's confidence. Confidence is the ultimate focus glue. When it's strong, gremlins struggle to get a foothold. And the best way to build confidence is commitment. That's the guardian most people underestimate. Showing up consistently, training with intention, preparing your mind and body, commitment strengthens everything. And once commitment is solid, confidence starts to bloom. Confidence repels gremlins like garlic repels vampires. When you're confident, your imagery improves, your self-talk becomes positive, your emotions stay regulated, and suddenly you're in the zone. That's not magic. That's your DartBrain doing its job. So here's the full picture. Focus sits at the center of your DartBrain. Gremlins try to collapse your focus and drag you into chaos by pushing inward on it. Guardians try to expand your focus and push you into the zone by pushing outwards on your focus. The stronger your guardians, especially confidence, the more resilient your focus becomes. The weaker your guardians, the more susceptible you are to ending up on tilt. Once you understand this, you can start to build a mental game with structure, with feedback, and with a real shot at improvement. You're not just hoping to feel better at the board, you're training a system. Coming up next, we're going to dive more deeply into focus, why it's every player's holy grail, and how you can design your mental game to get into the zone more often. Because now that you've met your gremlins and guardians, it's time to start tipping that battle in your favor. Focus, the eye of the DartBrain storm. Let's zoom in on the very heart of the DartBrain model, focus. Focus is the sun around which everything in your mental game orbits. It's the string that ties your mechanics, your mindset, your motivation, and your matchday mojo into one coherent force. And when it breaks, everything goes flying. Confidence collapses, form gets weird, and suddenly you're throwing darts like you're being chased by bees. So, what is focus, really? Why does it matter so much? And more importantly, why does it seem so stable during practice, but run screaming the moment you're in a final leg decider with a pint of tension in your hand? Let's unpack it. In sports psychology, focus is often defined as attentional control. your ability to direct and sustain your attention on relevant cues in the environment while ignoring irrelevant or distracting stimuli. Or, in layman's terms, it's your ability to pay attention to one thing and not get distracted by another thing. In darts, that might mean locking onto your target and not the sound of someone's phone that keeps ringing and has the exact same ringtone as you. This recently happened to me in Abbotsford in the middle of a knockout match. Hey, Showers. Focus isn't just about staring really hard at the triple 20 until it blinks. It's selective, sustainable, and situational. Selective means choosing what to pay attention to, like your target, your breath, or the rhythm of your pre-shot routine, instead of the guy next to you loudly debating the correct plural of bullseye. Sustainable is all about duration, how long you can stay locked in before your mind wanders off to think about dinner, missed doubles, or whether you left the oven on. And situational means your focus has to adapt depending on where you are, whether you're in a quiet solo practice session, a rowdy pub match, or the final leg on a big stage with lights, noise, and a heartbeat in your throat. Mastering focus means training all three. Focus is like spotlight in a dark theater. You can shine it where you want, but it only lights up a small part of the stage. The rest, hidden. And if your spotlight is jittery, flickering, or aimed at the wrong thing, your performance suffers. Here's where we bring in some sports psychology muscle. Dr. Niederfer's model of attentional styles is particularly helpful for athletes. He identified 4 primary focus types based on 2 dimensions: width, broad versus narrow, and direction, internal versus external. Let's take a look at the 4 types of focus in turn. First, there's broad external focus. This is about scanning the environment, reading your opponent, the crowd, the general atmosphere. We often think focus means zeroing in, but sometimes expanding your attention is more helpful. In the middle of a tense match, taking a step back mentally, breathing deeply, and soaking in the moment, the lights, the stakes, the energy, can ground you. It's the wide-angle lens that reminds you chose to be here, and you love the battle. Then there's narrow external focus. This is the classic dart player's focus, laser locked on the triple 20 or the double 16 or the scoreboard. This is where you live when you're at the line, darts in hand. Everything else fades. You're not in a pub or on a stage or in front of a crowd. You're just here, right now, with one job: hit that target. Narrow external focus is what allows you to play a precision game like darts, but it's also the most tiring type of focus, and overusing it in between rounds can actually hinder your performance. You need to build your endurance for this type of focus during your practice. Next, we shift inside to broad internal focus. This is your strategic thinking zone. It's where you weigh options and make decisions. Do you stay on 19s even though they're not behaving for you today? Do you go tops from 100 because your opponent is sitting on 40? It's the type of focus you use during practice planning or between turns, scanning across thoughts and patterns like a coach analyzing tape. And finally, there's narrow internal focus. This is deep self-regulation. It's your breathing, your mantras, your internal cue words: smooth, relax, trust it. It's the whisper you use to calm the chimp and keep the professor brain at the controls. This type of focus is especially helpful when pressure spikes. A tight leg, a noisy room, a twitchy hand, it brings you back to center. Elite performers can shift between these attentional styles seamlessly. Novices, not so much. Their spotlight either won't move or it spins around like it's at a rave and its favorite deadmau5 track just dropped. And this matters, because if you're stuck in the wrong focus mode at the wrong time, say thinking about strategy, broad internal focus, while you're supposed to be executing a throw, narrow external focus, you're asking for trouble. A 2015 meta-analysis found that external focus of attention, especially on the intended outcome, like hitting the bullseye, improves motor performance across a range of sports, including darts. Internal focus, such as saying keep your arms straight, can actually impair performance by disrupting automatic motor processes. Translation: if you start micromanaging your movements, you will suddenly find your silky throw feels like you're flinging pasta with your elbow. So if focus is so great, why is it the first thing to run for the hills when the pressure is on? Well, you can blame the chimp for that, and a few cognitive limitations. Under pressure, your brain experiences attentional narrowing, a reduction in the scope of attention due to stress. You become hyper-focused on threats, don't miss this double, and lose the broader context. This is a survival reflex. This is your chimp trying to take control. Great if you're being chased by a bear, less helpful when you need to smoothly execute a fine motor skill in front of 50 people and a scoreboard. This narrowing is part of what Daniel Kahneman called cognitive overload. Your working memory, the mental sticky note where you hold information temporarily, gets jammed. And when that happens, execution breaks down. You overthink, you tense up. You miss by just enough to wonder if your darts hate you personally. So, how do you strengthen your focus? How do you protect that spotlight from gremlins throwing glitter in your eyes? Good news, focus is trainable. 1. Pre-shot routines. You're going to hear this again and again in this podcast. Developing a consistent pre-throw ritual helps anchor your focus and cue the brain that it's go time. Research shows that athletes who use routines have more stable attentional control and better performance under pressure. Think of it as a neural switch that blocks gremlins before they even get to the stage. Your routine doesn't have to be elaborate, just consistent. Bounce a dart, take a breath, zoom in, commit, and boom. 2. Cue words. Simple mental phrases, smooth, follow through, eyes on 20, help direct attention and suppress internal chatter. Research shows that cue words improve both focus and execution, especially under stress. Choose words that are external, positive, and process focused, such as follow through and play your pace, instead of results focused like hit the triple or the worst cue words of all time, don't miss. 3. Mindfulness training. No incense required. Mindfulness is just attention plus awareness without judgment. Studies show that mindfulness improves attentional flexibility and emotional regulation in athletes. It teaches you to notice distractions, then return your focus to where it matters, like mental reps at the gym. Try 5 minutes a day of breath-focused mindfulness. If your mind wanders, gently bring it back. It's not failure, it's training. You can also try apps like Headspace or Calm, which have guided meditations to help you improve your attentional control. And 4. Simulated pressure practice. Most players lose focus because they only practice in calm conditions. The real test is whether your focus holds when it counts. So simulate stress, keep score, film yourself, set stakes, or create consequences. The more you expose your focus to pressure, the more pressure resilient it becomes. Focus isn't infinite, it drains. The theory of ego depletion suggests that self-control and focus draw from a shared mental resource. This is why a long match, a bad day, or 5 legs of chasing a comeback can leave you mentally exhausted. This is where recovery strategies matter. Take intentional breaks between legs. Use breathing to reset. Avoid ruminating on past throws. Re-anchor your focus with your routine. Think of your focus like a fuel tank. Don't burn it all up in warm-up and then expect to have anything left for a decider. Focus failures, gremlins at work. All your gremlins target focus. It's their favorite game to sabotage, but some are sneakier and more disruptive than others. Distractions are the classic thieves of focus. They can be external, like the clink of pint glasses, a coughing opponent, or someone loudly describing their dinner plans 2 feet away. But they're just as likely to be internal, like overthinking your mechanics, or getting emotionally tangled in frustration, excitement, or nerves. Either way, distractions pull your mental spotlight away from the target and scatter it across a dozen irrelevant directions. Fatigue is subtler, but just as dangerous. When you're physically or mentally tired, your attentional spotlight dims and flickers. Everything feels heavier. Throws feel forced. Even simple routines start to fray. Focus becomes harder to sustain, and harder to even notice when you've lost it. Stress, on the other hand, doesn't scatter your focus, it shrinks it. Under stress, your attention narrows too much. You become locked into fear-based thinking. Don't miss, don't choke. Your brain becomes a tunnel with only the worst-case scenario in view, which is hardly ideal when you're trying to hit a target the size of a coin. Then there's negative self-talk, a gremlin with a megaphone. It hijacks your inner voice with unhelpful commentary. You always miss this. You're blowing it again. Suddenly your attention isn't on the board, it's on a running monologue of doom, courtesy of your chimp brain. And finally, pessimism. This one doesn't just mess with your focus, it pre-programs it to expect failure. Before you've even raised your arm, your spotlight is already aimed at a negative outcome. It's like aiming for triple 20, while your thoughts are quietly muttering, it's probably going to hit the 5. If you've ever thrown a dart and realized halfway through that your brain was still arguing with the last leg, that's focus failure. Your spotlight was aimed at the past, not the board. The antidote? Awareness, redirection, and a good team of guardians to chase the gremlins back into the shadows. Now, meet your guardians, the mental bodyguards who protect your focus from being hijacked, dimmed, or derailed. Now, there are more guardians than this, but these are particularly important for maintaining a high-intensity focus in darts. First, distraction controls. These are the systems you use to manage noise, both literal and mental. Whether it's deep breathing to calm your nerves, a pre-shot routine to block out chaos, or a simple cue word to bring you back to the task, distraction controls keep you anchored. They don't eliminate distractions, but they give you a way to refocus when distractions inevitably show up, waving their arms and yelling, "Look at me!" Enjoyment might seem like a bonus, but it's actually a critical piece of the puzzle. When you're having fun, your brain relaxes, your body loosens up, and your focus becomes fluid instead of forced. Joy is jet fuel for attention. It makes the process feel less like work and more like play, which is where your best darts tend to live. Optimism is the guardian that shifts your attention away from disaster scenarios and toward possibilities. It doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means believing that success is within reach. Optimism helps you stay solution-focused instead of problem-obsessed. Positive imagery. Positive imagery taps into your brain's natural wiring. When you mentally rehearse the perfect throw, seeing the dart land cleanly, hearing the thunk of the board, you prime your body to execute. It's not superstition, it's neural rehearsal. You're focusing your mind on success before you even lift your arm. Positive self-talk is your internal commentary team. And with proper training, it becomes your motivational coach instead of your harshest critic. It's the voice that steadies you in the chaos, reminds you of your strengths, and says the right things at the right moment to keep you centered. And finally, confidence. This is the foundation of all focus. Confidence keeps your attention steady when nerves rattle the cage. It's what allows you to stay in the moment rather than flinching towards the past or the future. When confidence is strong, focus becomes far easier to maintain. Want to train your focus? Strengthen these guardians. Build routines that defend against distractions. Practice under pressure so enjoyment and optimism aren't just accidental, they're rehearsed. Use imagery and self-talk tools instead of afterthoughts. And most importantly, stop trying to focus harder. That's like yelling relax at yourself mid-throw. All it does is startle the chimp. Instead, train your guardians. That's how you focus smarter. Now that you've got a handle of the DartBrain model, with focus at the center, expanding and contracting like a balloon at the mercy of your emotions, it's time to talk about why this all matters. Because when your focus fully expands, when your gremlins are silent, your guardians are on patrol, and your brain is tuned in like a Stradivarius, you enter that mythical state athletes call the zone. Or, as we call it here at DartBrain, the mental pub where your inner chimp falls asleep in the corner and your professor brain buys a round of clarity and confidence. Let's get into it. What is the zone? If you've ever had a moment at the Aki where everything felt easy, like time slowed down, your arm was on autopilot, and you couldn't miss even if you tried, congratulations, you've tasted the zone. Psychologists call this state flow. Flow is a state of complete absorption in an activity. You're fully present, fully engaged, and your sense of time, self-consciousness, and effort all fade away. In darts, flow feels like this. You're not thinking about your mechanics, you're not doubting your ability, you're not remembering the 111 from 3 legs ago, and you're just there, calm, steady, and accurate. It's not magic, it's not luck, and no, it's not just for the naturals. It's a psychological and physiological state that anyone can reach, if you know how to prepare your dart brain. When I asked the DartBrain community what it feels like to be in the zone, the answers poured in with remarkable consistency and poetic clarity. Many described a kind of sensory blackout, a calm quiet where only the board exists. As Ricky Hine put it, not hearing a thing, the TV, people in the background, but oddly, only hearing my darts hit the board. Christina Joy echoed that eerie stillness. Nothing. There's no noise in my head or outside around me. It feels like the darts are guided as they land exactly where I want them. Charisma Brandt described it as utter calm, like I'm in a bubble and nothing can distract me. The overwhelming theme? Silence, stillness, and singular focus. Others tapped into more physical metaphors. Cole Briand described the zone as tunnel vision or weightlessness, with some confidence and adrenaline on the side. Comparing it to flowing water, everything just feels right and flows right out of your hand. And Tyler Nelson called it blackout mode, a perfect description of how elusive and surreal the experience can be. He said everything is feeling and going great. Then, when you want to remember it, you can't remember how or what happened. Nola Coyne even compared it to a fantasy state, the void from the Wheel of Time, where all thoughts and emotions vanish. Whether it's a sense of cruise control, as Brittany Tomchuk described it, or a disappearing act by the conscious brain, the takeaway is clear. Being in the zone isn't about trying harder. It's about slipping into a state where everything just clicks. And to get there, you need to create the conditions where the zone can arise. The ingredients of flow. So what goes into this mystical soup we call the zone? Psychologists studying flow have found that several conditions need to be met. 1, you need to have clear goals. You know exactly what you're trying to do. 2, you need immediate feedback. You get real-time results. And in darts, you always get that. You either hit your target or you didn't. And 3, you need a balance between challenge and skill. The task must be difficult enough to be engaging, but not so hard that it feels impossible. That third one is key. If the challenge is too low, you get bored. If it's too high, you get anxious. But when it's just right, your brain locks in. That's the flow channel. And that's something to think about when you make your own practice routines. You don't want something that's so easy you get bored, and you don't want something so hard that you get anxious. The goal here is to find a desirable level of difficulty in your practice and in your practice opponents. In darts, it might look something like this. You're in a tournament, so there's pressure, but not panic. Your opponent is good, but beatable. You're throwing well, not perfect, but consistent. The match is close, but winnable. Boom, flow conditions achieved. Now the trick is staying there. Chimp-proofing your flow. Here's the thing about the zone. You can't force it. You can't say, right then, I shall now enter flow state in 3, 2, 1. That's like trying to fall asleep by yelling relax at yourself. But you can set the conditions that make the zone more likely to happen. And that means training your mind the same way you train your throw. Let's go back to our DartBrain model. At the center is focus. When your focus is clear, stable, and unbroken, it expands. Your professor brain takes the wheel. Your guardians show up with their little hard hats and tool belts. Your body and mind are synced. But when a gremlin barges in, self-doubt, pessimism, stress, fatigue, focus collapses. The chimp wakes up, and suddenly you're no longer in the zone. So if flow is what happens when your gremlins are quiet, then entering the zone is really about prevention. You have to chimp-proof your mental game in advance. That means practicing under pressure so your nervous system gets used to it, using pre-shot routines to calm your mind and center your attention, strengthening your guardians, especially confidence and positive self-talk, and keeping your focus on the process, not the outcome. Let's pause on that last one for a second. The fastest way to trip and fall out of the zone is to start thinking about the result. If your focus shifts from what you're doing to what it means, you're done. The professor is calm and analytical. Nice rhythm. Good grouping. Keep the tempo. The chimp is dramatic and superstitious. If you miss this double, your soul will be cursed by the ghost of Eric Bristow. Stay process focused. Your job isn't to win the match. Your job is to hit the board with intention, one dart at a time. Trust the process. The score will take care of itself. Attention, the gateway to the zone. One of the most effective strategies for entering flow is mastering your attention control. As we recently discussed, according to the attention model, elite athletes are able to shift between different types of focus: broad external focus, narrow external focus, broad internal focus, and narrow internal focus. The key is being able to select the right type of attention for the moment. When you're in the zone, your attention becomes razor sharp and externally directed, usually on a single point, the target. You're not analyzing, you're not judging, you're just doing. This is why many top players talk about using soft focus or quiet eyes, not staring harder at the target, but letting your attention settle on it gently, like resting a coffee mug on a coaster. If you find your mind wandering during play, whether to the past, the future, or the kebab van outside, gently return it to the now. Focus is like a muscle. You can train it. Here's the cool part. When you're in the zone, your body knows what to do. Your motor memory takes over. Your throw becomes smooth and repeatable. Your breathing slows. Your heart rate aligns with your rhythm. You're not thinking about your elbows or your grip. You're just throwing. This state is sometimes called automaticity, the ability to execute complex skills without conscious thought. Research shows that overfocusing on your mechanics, especially under pressure, can actually disrupt performance, a phenomenon known as analysis paralysis. So when you're in the zone, it's not because you're thinking harder. It's because you've stopped thinking so much and just started doing. Let the body do what it is trained to do. Can you practice getting in the zone? Absolutely. Here's what mental skill coaches recommend to make flow more likely. 1. Set performance routines. Yep, these guys again. These help your brain associate certain behaviors with focus and calm. It's like a flow ritual, your personal summoning spell. And we're not just talking about your pre-throw routines here, which is vitally important, but everything you do when you get to the venue. Do you find a home base to put your things? Do you socialize? When do you start warming up? What type of warm-up do you do? All of these things can be built into your routine. 2. Visualize success. Mentally rehearse successful throws with full sensory detail. This activates the same motor pathways as actual practice and boosts confidence. Visualization will definitely be a topic we cover in a future podcast. 3. Use cue words. A short phrase like smooth and steady or trust the throw can redirect attention and keep you present. 4. Control arousal levels. Use breathing techniques, posture shifts, or music to get into your ideal intensity zone. Too much energy? Calm down. Too little? Pump it up. And 5, debrief regularly. Reflect on matches. When did you feel in the zone? What helped? What hurt? Build your awareness like a coach would. Your goal is to understand what helps you get in the zone and what keeps you out of it. You can only figure this out if you're paying deliberate attention to it. Let's be honest. We all want to win, but the real addiction in darts isn't trophies or rankings. It's the zone. It's that feeling of complete control and surrender at the same time. It's why players keep coming back, why we keep practicing, why we're willing to deal with all the missed doubles and dartboard denting rage. The zone is the reward. It's proof that, for a moment, everything aligned, body, mind, and soul, and you became exactly what you were meant to be. A dart-slinging Jedi with the wisdom of a monk and the wrist of a magician. So to recap, the zone is the holy grail of performance. It happens when your focus is full, your guardians are active, and your professor brain is driving the bus. You can't force it, but you can train for it. Build your routines, control your attention, stay in the moment, protect your focus like it's your last can of beer at the summer barbecue. And remember, when you're in the zone, you're not trying to win. You're just trying to be fully present for the throw. The rest takes care of itself. Okay, so we've talked about the magic of focus and the zone, the razor-sharp spotlight that turns a regular throw into a game winner. But now we need to talk about what happens when the spotlight shatters, when the calm vanishes, when your brain goes full gremlin. Welcome to Tilt City. Going on tilt is the psychological equivalent of watching your beautiful darting brain burst into flames while your chimp throws banana peels at your guardians. It's not pretty. It's not fun. And it happens to everyone. The term on tilt originated in poker, describing the moment a player loses emotional control and starts making irrational decisions after a setback, like losing a big hand or getting bluffed. In darts, it's the same phenomenon, a state of emotional or cognitive chaos triggered by stress, frustration, or failure. You know you're on tilt when you miss one double and suddenly can't hit any of them. You start speeding up your throw without meaning to. You begin talking to yourself like a disappointed driving instructor, and you feel your heart rate spike, your breathing tighten, and your thoughts spiral like a dart in a wind tunnel. It's not just that you're off your game, it's that your chimp brain has wrestled the controls away from your professor and once again is doing donuts in the parking lot. We've got to stop letting him get a hold of those keys. Going on tilt is a full-blown psychophysiological response. It's the perfect storm of cognitive overload, emotional dysregulation, and neuromuscular interference. Yeah, that's a mouthful, so let's break it down. 1. Cognitive overload. When you experience a negative event, a bad throw, a missed opportunity, a noisy crowd, your working memory gets overwhelmed. You start thinking about too many things at once. What went wrong? What will people think? Can I recover? Is it happening again? This overload interferes with your ability to plan and execute your next action. Instead of focusing on what matters, the next throw, your pre-throw routine, getting into your professor brain, your mind starts trying to solve everything all at once. 2. Emotional hijack. In his book, Emotional Intelligence, Daniel Goleman describes an amygdala hijack, a situation where the brain's emotional center overrides rational thought. This is chimp brain 101. The amygdala senses danger, you missed a big shot, and floods your system with stress hormones. The result? Tunnel vision, rapid breathing, tight muscles, bad decisions, gremlin party. And finally, 3, motor interference. The theory of motor learning explains that skilled movements should be automatic, but under pressure, athletes often shift from the autonomous stage back to the cognitive stage, overthinking movement that should be instinctive. So when you're on tilt and trying to force yourself to throw well, your body starts overcorrecting. Instead of flowing, you're controlling. Instead of trusting, you're tensing. It's like putting your foot on the gas and the brake pedal at the same time. You're not going anywhere fast. Unless this is your first episode of DartBrain, or you've been listening for less than 5 minutes, you've met the chimp, your emotional, impulsive, irrational mind that cares more about feelings than facts. On tilt is chimp mode in overdrive. At first, the chimp whispers, "You've missed this double before." Then it escalates. "You're blowing it again. Everyone's watching. Why are you even here?" And finally, full meltdown. "Throw the dart. No, wait, don't throw the dart. Panic." Here's the bad news. You can't reason with a chimp in a meltdown. Once the chimp is fully in control, your professor brain, the calm, rational part of you, has left the building, which means your best defense is prevention. Going on tilt isn't random. It usually starts with a trigger, something that cracks your mental stability. Common dart's tilt triggers include a blow and finish, a bounce out at the worst possible time, an opponent who celebrates just a little too hard, a poor start that spirals, external distractions such as noise, heat, and bad lighting. What matters is not the event itself, but your interpretation of it. Stress isn't caused by events. It's caused by your appraisal of those events. If you interpret a mistake as catastrophic, you're far more likely to tilt than if you see it as recoverable. Tilt happens when you perceive a threat without enough coping resources. The more powerless you feel, the faster you spiral. Recognizing the early warning signs is crucial, like when your smoke alarm chirps before a real fire. Watch for faster pacing or throwing rhythm, increased self-talk, probably negative, jaw clenching or shallow breathing, fixation on the last throw or upcoming leg, and thinking in all or nothing terms. If I miss, it's all over. These are the psychological smoke signals. If you ignore them, you're heading straight into gremlin territory. And let's be clear, gremlins thrive on tilt. Self-doubt grabs the mic, emotions crank the volume, fatigue joins the party, negative self-talk brings snacks, and stress turns the lights off and starts shouting about your childhood. Tilt is the gremlins' playground. Once you're in it, they don't just disrupt focus, they collapse it. And here's the brutal truth. It only takes one strong gremlin to tilt you, but it takes a full squad of guardians to keep you in the zone. That's why tilt prevention is essential. So, how do you defend against tilt? 1. Awareness. Start by catching it early. Build the habit of noticing your thoughts and physical cues. The earlier you spot tilt coming, the easier it is to interrupt. Okay, I'm clenching my jaw, my breath shallow. That last miss is looping in my head. I'm getting tilted. Name it. That alone can give your professor brain a foothold. It gives him something to work on. 2. Interpret the pattern. Tilt is a feedback loop. Negative thoughts lead to bad throws, which fuel more negativity. You have to break the loop. Some things you can try include taking a reset breath. Inhale for 4 seconds, and then exhale for 6 seconds. You can try a grounding cue like tapping your leg, touching the board, stretching your fingers. And you can try a physical reset. Step back, roll your shoulders, recenter. Even 3 to 5 seconds of interruption can reboot the system. It might not be perfect right away, but it's better than where you were headed. 3. Anchor to your routine. Your pre-shot routine isn't just mechanical, it's mental scaffolding. It stabilizes attention and reduces variance. When the world starts shaking, your routine is your home base. Use it like a parachute. Slow down, breathe, reset. Don't rush your way through a mental breakdown. And 4. Mental reframing. Tilt feeds on catastrophizing, so shift the narrative from "I can't believe I missed that" to "everyone misses, let's make the next one count," or from "it's all falling apart" to "this is a test, and I've trained for it." Reframing gives your guardians a voice, especially confidence and optimism, who've been quietly waiting their turn. Is tilt recovery possible? Well, it's difficult, but yeah, it's absolutely possible. When you find yourself on tilt, and you know you're on tilt, that moment, as frustrating as it might feel, is actually a golden opportunity. It's one of the best times to practice recovering from tilt. I know that's probably not what you want to hear when you're mentally melting down like a forgotten ice cream cone in the sun, but stick with me. First, recognizing that you're on tilt gives your professor brain a clear mission. Instead of spiraling further into chaos, you shift gears and ask yourself rational, grounded questions. Why am I on tilt? What just triggered me? What do I need to adjust? These questions light up your executive function and help you engage the calm, analytical part of your mind, the part that can actually solve the problem instead of flailing in it. It's like handing the steering wheel back to the adult in the room before your inner chimp drives the car into a lake. And second, and this is important, tilt happens. It's not a sign of failure, it's a sign that you're human and you care. But if you've never trained yourself to climb out of it deliberately, then guess what? You won't magically figure it out when it really counts, like in a deciding leg with a crowd behind you and your opponent breathing fire. If you only ever practice when things are going well, then you're only training half of your game. Tilt recovery is a skill, just like scoring, finishing, or counting under pressure. And just like any other skill, you need reps. Every time you're on tilt in practice or league night or even just playing around at home, you have a chance to rehearse the comeback, to breathe, to reset, to pull a guardian or two back into the fight. Those messy, chaotic moments, that's where the mental muscle grows. So what do you do when it's too late? When the meltdown has already happened, the match is spiraling, your chimp is wearing your guardian's hoodie and mocking your pre-shot routine. Here's what you do. First, buy time. If the rules allow it, take a breath. Walk to get a drink. Tie your shoe slowly. Let the surge pass. This isn't gamesmanship. This is about getting you right. If it screws up your opponent, that's their fault. They should be working on their distraction control. 2, drop the rope. Stop trying to be perfect. Focus on basics. Soft grip, smooth rhythm, just get one good dart out. And 3, protect the next leg. Even if this one is lost, don't carry tilt into the next. Reset between legs. Let it go. The worst thing you can do is fight tilt with more tension. That just gives it fuel. All right, before we close out part 1 of this DartBrain deep dive, I want to leave you with a clearer picture of your gremlins and guardians. We'll dig into these matchups in more detail in the next episode, but consider this a teaser trailer, a sneak peek at the mental tag teams battling for control of your focus every time you step to the Aki. Each gremlin is a mental disruptor, a little saboteur that tries to pull your focus apart. And each guardian is a stabilizer, a mental coach working to keep you sharp, clear, and in the zone. These pairs aren't just psychological opposites, they're locked in an ongoing tug-of-war for control of your attention, emotions, and performance. Let's start with neglect and commitment. Neglect is the internal whisper that says, hey, you'll be fine, skip practice, watch darts instead of playing darts. It's the gremlin who convinces you that your natural talent is enough, that preparation is optional. But neglect is a liar. In sports psych terms, it erodes self-efficacy and undercuts confidence by robbing you of preparation. Enter commitment, the guardian who shows up even when you don't feel like it. Commitment doesn't rely on motivation. It runs on values, consistency, and the ability to train even when your gremlins are grumbling. It's your inner coach, clipboard in hand, reminding you that progress happens one rep at a time. Next up, adversity and resilience. Adversity isn't just about things going wrong. It's about how your brain interprets those moments. This gremlin loves to scream, "This is a disaster!" the moment you miss a double or your opponent hits a 180. It's a catastrophizer. But resilience, oh, resilience is smooth. It's the guardian that shrugs, grins, and says, all right, next start. Resilience is your recovery system. It turns failure into feedback and reminds you that one bad throw doesn't define the next one unless you let it. Then we've got distractions and distraction controls. Distractions are the mental magpies of your dart brain. Shiny noise, odd smell, the one guy coughing loudly behind you. But they're not just external. They can be internal too. Overthinking, random thoughts, emotional static. Controls are the guardian version of noise-canceling headphones. They narrow your attention, block irrelevant stimuli, and let you lock in on what matters. Pre-shot routines, cue words, breathing, these are the tools of the control guardian. You don't just block distractions by hoping they go away. You block them by building better controls. Onward to stress and enjoyment. Stress is the gremlin who tightens your shoulders, narrows your vision, and whispers doomsday predictions like, you have to hit this or it's all over. It floods your system with tension. Enjoyment is the counterforce. It's not just about having fun, it's about engaging with the task in a way that invites curiosity, flow, and freedom. Enjoyment keeps you loose. It makes the game feel like a game again. And when you're enjoying yourself, pressure becomes something you play with, not panic about. Let's talk about fatigue and energy. Fatigue is the gremlin that crashes your system when you need it most. It drains your mental and physical battery and tells you that effort is futile. This gremlin doesn't just show up when you're tired, it makes you tired by feeding off doubt and stress. Energy, the Guardian, isn't about bouncing off the walls. It's about sustainable alertness. It's fueled by preparation, rest, hydration, breath, and optimism. Energy makes focus possible. Without it, even your best intentions crumble. Now we meet emotions and emotional regulation. Emotions, when unmanaged, turn into tantrums in your nervous system. This gremlin rides shotgun on tilt, flaring up when a dart goes bad and demanding that everyone hear about it. The emotions gremlin doesn't care about timing, it just wants attention. But regulation? That's your emotional thermostat. It doesn't cancel feelings, it manages them. Regulation is what lets you feel frustration but still hit the next target. It keeps you from spiraling into self-pity and rage. In sports psychology, this is emotional control, a predictor of consistent performances under pressure. Our next pair is pessimism and optimism. Pessimism is the mopey gremlin muttering, "You'll probably miss again." It anticipates failure and drains momentum before you've even thrown. It's not honest, it's habitual. Optimism is not blind positivity, it's the realistic belief that good outcomes are possible and effort is worth it. Optimism keeps you moving forward. It turns a missed double into, "all right, next one," instead of, "I am the worst player ever." It fuels resilience, effort, and confidence, and in doing so, weakens the pessimist's grip. Let's look at negative imagery and positive imagery. Negative imagery is your inner cinema of failure. It replays worst-case scenarios in glorious HD. It makes you feel like the collapse is inevitable. This gremlin turns your imagination against you. But positive imagery is the guardian who runs highlight reels of success. Smooth throws, perfect rhythm, darts landing exactly where you want. Visualization is a key mental skill in performance psychology. Imagery works because your brain treats imagined actions like real ones, so you might as well imagine the good stuff. Now for negative self-talk and positive self-talk. Negative self-talk is a cruel gremlin with a microphone and no chill. It narrates your mistakes, questions your talents, and makes every setback personal. It's the inner heckler. Positive self-talk, on the other hand, is your inner coach. It doesn't deny mistakes. It frames them constructively. It says, "let's reset," instead of "you suck." Studies show positive self-talk improves motivation, focus, and performance under pressure. This guardian keeps your inner monologue from turning into a roast. And finally, the heavyweight bout, self-doubt and confidence. Self-doubt is the gremlin boss, the one that weakens every guardian. It makes you hesitate. It pokes holes in your routine. It whispers, "are you even good enough to be here?" This gremlin doesn't just attack one part of your game, it attacks all of it. But confidence is the guardian MVP. It's the great repellent of gremlins. Confidence doesn't mean arrogance, it means trust. Trust in your process, your preparation, your ability to bounce back. When confidence is strong, the other guardians follow. And when it's weak, every gremlin starts sniffing around. So these are your inner forces. Gremlins disrupt your focus, guardians defend it. They work in pairs, they gang up, they influence each other. Your job isn't to eliminate the gremlins, it's to train your guardians until they're strong enough to hold the line. That's when you throw your best darts. Not just technically, but mentally, emotionally, and competitively. That's when your DartBrain works with you, not against you. All right, let's hit the recap bullseye. In this episode, we finally unveiled the full DartBrain model, the mental map that shows you exactly what's going on inside your head when you're standing at the Aki. We explored the core model, focus, the dynamic center of your mental game. When focus expands, you enter the zone. When it collapses, you go on tilt. And at all times, it's under pressure from two opposing forces, gremlins and guardians. Gremlins are your inner saboteurs, the voices of doubt, stress, distraction, fatigue, and all things that shrink your focus. Guardians are your internal allies, the mental habits and mindsets that expand your focus and keep you performing at your best. We took a deep dive into what it means to be on tilt, how it feels, what causes it, and why it's so hard to recover once your chimp brain takes over. The key message? You can't reason with a chimp mid-meltdown. The best defense is to train your guardians and build routines that prevent tilt from ever taking hold. And most importantly, we reminded you that mental training is not about eliminating gremlins. It's about strengthening your guardians until they can hold the line. And most importantly, we reminded you that mental training is not about eliminating gremlins. It's about strengthening your guardians so your gremlins can't take hold. Because when your guardians are strong, your focus expands and your DartBrain becomes a tool, not a trap. In the next episode, we'll go deeper into the Gremlin-Guardian dynamics, exploring how they interact, gang up, cancel each other out, and sometimes throw mental bar stools at each other when you're just trying to hit the double. So until then, take a breath, trust your throw, and for the love of tungsten, don't let the monkey drive the bus. This has been DartBrain. I'm Clint Clarkson. Until next time, stay focused, throw with purpose, and train your DartBrain.